busy, and many of you see your public representative once in 5 years. And many of you see your public representative in the TV or in the newspaper. That is why the youngsters, especially 18 to 25, their participation in democracy is at an all-time low. If you look research studies after research studies, the youngsters' participation in democracy, direct participation by voting, by debating, by discussing, participating in this kind of seminars, the youngsters participating in democracy is getting to an all-time low. This is a very serious issue. That is why I am very happy in this very eminent Jain group of institution. All of us have assembled here. We have come here to talk to you, to the youngsters, to ideate with you, discuss with you, to try and take your mindset, your opinion also to decide how the country should move forward together as a collective group, together as citizens of this country. And no democracy is perfect. If anybody thinks democracy is perfect, then probably we are living in a fool's paradise. 1776, American War of Independence, it got over. And the northern part of US and the southern part of US, they came together. That point of time, there was a big discussion on who will vote. Who is eligible to vote? How will they vote? What is the duration of a public representative whom we will select? Many of you might not know this, because south of US had a lot of colored people, so-called black people. The north had a lot of slave owners or the rich class. During the American Constitution formation itself, people said, not everybody should get an equal vote. So the America in 1776, they started something called 3/5 compromise. Meaning, for every 5 black people who vote, it will be counted as 3 white votes. Because they said South is more populated with colored people. So this union of states will break unless we arrive at a compromise. So 3/5 compromise was struck. Who struck? Some of the greatest names in American history. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Madison, all those people, they struck a compromise. They wanted the union to survive. 3/5 compromise they brought in. Later Abraham Lincoln in 1861, which is a good 100 years later, 90 years later, Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery, and thereby the 3/5 compromise, everything went out. The reason I'm trying to make this in front of you is to emphasize the point. Some of you said I agree with your proposal, some of you said I don't agree with your proposal. But overall, we all agree to a common point. No democracy is perfect. We all keep fighting to make sure we can improve our democracy bit by bit every single time we get an opportunity. And many of you might not know, in Italy, a European country, an advanced European country, till 2021 elections, for the Senate elections, only people below 25 can vote. Only in 2021 elections in Italy, they extended the tenure to say 18 years to 21 years, 24 years, you can vote in the Italy election. So all through the world, India is possibly one of the first countries in the world. The day we got independence, we said all of us are equal. The day we got independence, we said everybody has got one equal vote. And day we got independence, we said men and women both can vote. Because in many of the advanced democracies that we talk now, our brave sisters and mothers weren't given the opportunity to vote the day the country got the independence. So when India did everything right, starting from 1947 in the first election in 1951, many people said Indian democracy will die. Because educated people have got one vote, uneducated people have got one vote, people having land, they have one vote, people working as coolie and laborers, they have one vote, women have one vote, male have one vote. How is that possible? So from there, we have reached 2025 with our democracy intact, only due to the participation of people like you. This is something which we have to keep acknowledging at every single possible moment to make sure that we kept our democracy intact. That is why our country has gone through multiple changes. It is not everything is fine, everything was great. The first election, it happened over 2 years. The first election never happened like now. It happened over a 40-day period. It happened over 7 phases. The first election happened in 1951, 1952. Sukumar Sen, who was our first election commissioner, he conducted the first election. First election is very important because India, we have to show the world that we can conduct elections for ourselves and our elections can be perfect and more than perfect through this principle of equal representation. We can select our public representative who will govern. 51-52, we did our first election, no problem. 57, exactly 5 years later, we did not regress into an autocracy. Exactly 5 years later, we did our second election, 1957, no problem. But the problem in 1957, the small problem was, 7 states have lost their majority by then. Madras, Mysore, Uttar Pradesh, Bombay, West Bengal, the so-called presidencies and some of the states couldn't complete their first 5-year term. So what we had to do as a country in 1957, we wanted the Lok Sabha and we wanted the Assembly both to go together in 1957 because 51-52 we voted together. 57 we wanted to vote together. In 7 states, when they lost their majority, we made sure all these 7 states again came back and together the 1957 elections also happened in one shot, no problem. 1962, 5 years later, again without fail, because the problem was, many of the countries that got independence along with us, they regressed back to a dictatorship or an autocracy. For third straight time after 5 years, again we did our election on time, whereby the legislative assemblies and the parliament house of people, we voted in unison. 1967, fourth time, again after 5 years, all the state legislative assemblies and house of people, Lok Sabha, we voted together. Which means our country, starting from 1952 to 1967, for 15 straight years, it was a one nation, it was a one election without fail. The problem happened from 1967 onwards, because 1970 Lok Sabha was dissolved 1 year before. The elections happened in 1971. By the time many states in our country, starting from Kerala had the first ignominious, the record of getting dismissed by the central government because there was a communist party in power led by EMS Namboodiripad. The government in Delhi at that point of time, they felt, okay, Russia is a communist country, China is a communist country, we cannot afford to have one more communist party ruling our country in a state in Kerala led by EMS Namboodiripad, because he is bringing land reforms, he is bringing a lot of things. Probably the Congress party at that point of time, when Madam Indira Gandhi visited Congress, before she was the Congress president, when she visited Kerala, when she reported back to her father Nehru, she felt it is time that Kerala should not go the communist way. So against the principle of Indian Constitution, against the principle of a person deciding what kind of government he wants, the communist government in Kerala was unceremoniously dismissed. Then one after the other, state governments got dismissed, many times for flimsy reasons. Many times for flimsy reasons. For example, during emergency, the government in my home state, Tamil Nadu, was dismissed because they felt in emergency there are only 3 states in our country that are non-Congress ruled states. They felt all the non-Congress ruled states should be dismissed, and Tamil Nadu was one of the states which got dismissed. And many a time the regional parties, if they align with the party in power in center Congress, they'll continue in power. If they change to a different national party, they will get dismissed. Classic case being Tamil Nadu. Whenever DMK aligns with Congress, they are there. If DMK doesn't align with Congress, they get dismissed. So we have seen this kind of a seesaw democracy in our country, starting from 1970, an 18-month emergency in between. Then we have different governments coming and going, the late 80s. In the emergency, the Congress party dismissed so many governments. When the Janata Party came back to power post-emergency, they also dismissed so many governments. They said, emergency, you dismissed this many governments. After emergency, I have come, I have dismissed so many governments. Now what it has created is a problem in our country with 28 states and 8 union territory. Every year, always our country, Bharat, seems to be in an election mode. Every year. We just finished an election in Delhi. We are preparing for an election in Bihar, October, September. Next year onset, Bengal and Tamil Nadu will be the first states to go for election. Last year, along with Lok Sabha, we finished Orissa, we finished Andhra Pradesh. Immediately after the Lok Sabha election, we did Haryana, we did Maharashtra. You keep observing in our country always seems to be an election mode. There is always a model code of conduct in some part of the country. You all know, the youngsters, the students have to understand, a model code of conduct, moment it comes, it freezes the government, it paralyzes the government. And a model code of conduct comes a good 45 days before a government gets formed, before the election happens. And before the model code of conduct, a good 6 months goes into preparing electoral rolls, starting from the district collector to the tahsildar. Their job 6 months before the election is to prepare the electoral roll. Okay, anybody above 18 years, new voters, have you registered? You got your voter card, addition, deletion of voters, shifting of voters. 6 months we do it. So what happens? The administration goes through a severe paralysis. 6 months before the model code of conduct, then the model code of conduct, which is about 45 days, then the election happens. Within a week the result comes, possibly within 10 days the government forms. So technically if you take, a state loses at least about 7.5 months for every 5 years, only to prepare itself for an election, only to prepare its whole machinery for election. Right from a government school teacher has to be there in the field studying electoral roll, a government school teacher going to the polling booth conducting election, a government school teacher standing, sitting all the way till the counting happens. And this one nation, one election is not about elections alone. It is about the dynamics behind the elections also. How we as a country conduct election. Because election is not an ordinary task. Every time you will see the EVM machines going in elephants. And some places in Uttarakhand we have seen people going in ropes, carrying EVM machines in their back because they have to go to an inaccessible terrain. And we have seen our brave teachers, CRPF and other paramilitary, central armed forces, people traveling all the way into dense Naxal affected areas conducting election. So there is a machinery behind it. Now, over the last many years, not now, we are having a very big discussion how we should conduct election. Is it time that Bharat, India should go back to doing our election only one time, so that we go press one button for the Lok Sabha to select your MP, we press one button and another EVM to select our MLA, and then we walk out, so that every 5 years we get tuned to it. There are many logic and counter logic that is given both and against the one nation, one election. If you look at the earliest proponents in 1932, the franchisee committee report, even before the independence, when the provincial elections were happening, the franchisee committee report of 1932, it wanted a single electoral roll, so that for assembly and provincial councils, one electoral roll can be prepared, and you should not have two electoral roll for two elections. Combine the election once, so that people can have one. 1932. The Election Commission of India's inaugural report in 1983. Election Commission of India, every year it gives a report to the public. This is we as a commission, we have done elections, this is the problem. Our Indian Election Commission first report was in 1983. If you look at the inaugural and annual report in 1983, the Election Commission of India said in 1983, it is time that our country should go for simultaneous elections, which we lost in 1967. They said in 1983. If you look at the Law Commission of India report in 1999, 170th report, the Law Commission also said it is important we go for one nation, one election, because that is how we were. Now there is so much confusion of multiple elections happening at multiple points of time. 2015, Parliamentary Standing Committee on Personal Public Grievances, Law and Justice, a group of parliamentarians thoroughly studied the issue. They also felt it is important that we should go for one nation, one election. 2017 Niti Aayog, they analyzed the economic potential with respect to conducting one nation, one election. If India does one election, one shot, for both the Assembly and the House of People, Lok Sabha, they formulated the working paper called Analysis of Simultaneous Elections, What, Why and How. If you look at that paper, for me the most striking thing that I liked in the paper is, one nation, one election will force a regional party to think nationally, a national party to think regionally. This is very important for a country like Bharat, which has got all of us speaking multiple languages, differing cultures, but the spirit of Bharatiya we united. Just yesterday, you might have seen in Tamil Nadu, my home state, the common symbol rupee, which we all use. Tamil Nadu government said we will not use this symbol because we wanted to use our Ru symbol. Because our rubai, what you say in rubai in Tamil, the rubai itself comes from a Sanskrit word called rupaya. From there the Tamil word rubai has come, and that Ru. The counter logic is, since you don't want Devanagari, you don't want Sanskrit, but why do you want Ru? Because Ru itself has come from Sanskrit. Now in fact the symbol was given by a Tamilian in 2010 in the National Design Contest. A Tamilian presented this symbol which was accepted in a design contest, which all of us have accepted. Now one state says, no, I don't want this symbol. Now tomorrow a non-Tamil speaking friend, you come to my state, you go to a tea shop. Let us imagine you order a cup of tea, which is 20 rupees or 10 rupees and a vada. And then you take a menu card. What will you read? What will you see? That is why we have a certain commonality. That is why this Niti Aayog working paper very beautifully said, it will force the regional party to think nationally and national parties to think regionally. This is one important outcome that will come out of a one nation, one election. Niti Aayog working paper. Again in 2018, the Law Commission's draft report, after 1999, one more time they said, India should go for a one nation, one election, the time is right. 2019, all party meeting in Delhi. All party meeting, just 5 years before what we are discussing now. When all party meeting happened in Delhi, they were discussing critical reforms in governance. One important topic among the 19 parties that attended is how many parties support one nation, one election. You'll be very surprised to know many parties have taken a stand in parliament now, some of the parties that, no, we don't support one nation, one election. But many of the parties in 2019, when they participated in that conference, 16 parties wanted one nation, one election. Parties BJP, Nationalist Congress Party, JDU, YSRCP, BJD, BRS, LJP, SAD, APNADAL, All Jharkhand Students Union, Sikkim Krantakari Morcha, NDPP, NPP, PDP, RLP, RPI. 16 parties said, we want one country, one election. 3 parties in the 2019 meeting, they said, we don't want one nation, one election. CPIM, RSP, AIMIM. 3 parties said we don't want. So the reason I'm giving this in front of you is, this is not a concept we are discussing now. This is not a concept the current parliament has taken up. Nor this is not a concept we are discussing for the last 6 months. This is a concept that started in 1932. And we are discussing it at multiple points of time. Election Commission, Law Commission of our country, all parties meeting that is happening. So all of us in consensus, we are trying to move towards one nation, one election, so that the youth participation in democracy will become high. You don't get voter fatigue. Oh, this month you will make me to vote for Panchayat election. Then you will call BBMP election for Bengaluru civic body, you will call me. Then after 3 months you will call me to vote for Legislative Assembly. Then after 3 months, like Karnataka, 2023, your assembly. 2024, you voted for Lok Sabha. Now BBMP elections, we are not sure when it is happening. Again, you will vote. Then people like me and all the leaders will complain. Oh, youth is not participating. Youth are bad. Since youth is not participating, they are not interested in democracy. I am very, very sure when we facilitate youth to vote, 100% of our youth will come, they'll participate, they will vote, they will select a public representative of our choice. Now this is also a logic the students should see. You get a voter fatigue, you are least interested every time to go up, stand outside the polling booth, and many a time you don't have full information, who's the candidate, what is the background of the candidate. Especially for a corporate election, you might not even have an idea who's your corporator. That is why many of the youths don't turn up. I am very sure one of the positive aspects of one nation, one election is the participation of youth will go up. Second, there is an economic logic. Now there are various economic studies which points out to a fact. If we have one nation, one elections at one shot, next year the Indian GDP will see a rise of 1.5%. 1.5% will be an addition to the GDP. So 1.5% of the current Indian GDP will be about 4.5 lakh crore rupee. 4.5 lakh crore rupee would be an economic addition, a logic, because of one nation, one election, because of an uptick of 1.5%. Now there are also various studies that points out 2024 Lok Sabha election, all the political parties, candidates, everybody, there is a legal ceiling limit. Some candidates go over that, some go under over it. Though election commission job is to catch. 2024 Lok Sabha alone, there is an estimate which says together in our country for the elections, everybody had spent 1,74,000 crore for the election. 2024 Lok Sabha, 543 constituencies. Estimates say together the candidates, political parties, everybody, legal, illegal, under the table, over the table in our country, together they have spent 1,74,000 crore rupee. Now I am very, very sure the eminent audience sitting gathered here will think through multiple things, okay? Politically one nation, one election. Economically one nation, one election. To advance a democracy, one nation, one election. To reduce voter fatigue, one nation, one election. That is why of late the one nation, one election has got a lot of discussion, lot of debate. Now we as a mature democracy, it is not Bhaskar Rao sir or our MLA sir has come to the stage, they said, tomorrow morning one nation, one election, all of you have to accept it. No. Our country, we have gone through a democratic process. And there is a committee appointed by the government, headed by the former president of our country, Sri Ramnath Govindji. He had a committee, he studied, called political parties, visited, spoken to people like you, young audience, all kinds of people. Then they came out with the report. That report is submitted in the parliament. That report is given to a joint parliamentary committee, JPC. And right now JPC is doing public interaction, talking to common people like us, taking your suggestions, your ideas also, to say, no, you have to compulsorily support one nation, one election. If you don't support, we will lock the Jain University gates. No. All so you want of the votes. Election. To election. World that not talk who you should you refused what of girl number friend would girl later the girl you had access to that university because gay was able to work. Yes, the police the solution university, not sure you are there is so below the we have even the society has to change our attitude. How we see women, how we respect women. I think it starts with basic education, building up. How we respect our mothers. What kind of respect our mothers get inside our house. How our fathers treat our mother. The kind of language we use inside our house. So it's a long answer. I'm sure when people like many of you, when you come, when you decide to get into politics or public life, so when you have a holistic solution integrating everything, I think India will be a better place. But me or you or a corporator or an MLA or a police commissioner, it's a daily battle for us. When society on its own reforms, then the battle becomes smoother and easier. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Please be brief and ask only one question, please. Two more.
Good afternoon, sir. ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಮೋನಿಕಾ, ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಇಯರ್ BCom ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್. ನನ್ನ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ, ಇವಾಗ ಬೈ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಕೊಲಾಪ್ಸ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಅಥವಾ ನೋ ಕಾನ್ಫಿಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಮೋಷನ್ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಆದ್ರೆ ಮಿಡ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಸರ್?
Sister, Dhanyavada, thank you so much. I think our question is fine. You all have great ideas. And the committee, please said, committee has given a report. So 2034, one nation, one election, Madonna. Karnataka elections will happen for Karnataka in 2037, but it will be only for 2 years. 2039, still Karnataka has to go for one nation, one election. So their idea is, if there is a midterm election that is happening, The midterm elections validity is only for the rest of the 5 years and not for a full 5 years. So that again 2039 we come back to one nation, one election.
A very good afternoon, sir. I'm Smriti Vinay, and I have a question to address you. So, how would this policy affect the implementation of welfare schemes, which would often accelerate before elections? Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you, Smriti ji. This is a very important question. Now, India is experimenting with multiple welfare models. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. Multiple welfare models. And some things we call a trickle-down economic effect, which we call welfare economics. And something we call a pure freebies. You just announce something before election, you want to win the election. Then there is an exchequer burden. You are not able to spend the money wisely for infrastructure development. Now, Supreme Court, as we speak, when both of us speak, there is a PIL in Supreme Court in which the political parties and election commission, they are made party to it. And Supreme Court is trying to find a balance between freebies and welfare economics. Supreme Court is asking political parties to say, what is your definition of freebie? What is your definition of welfare economics? As of now, the case is on. And different political parties are submitting their affidavits to Supreme Court. Election Commission is also there. I personally believe when one nation, one election becomes, when all of you come together on a certain point, I mentioned a sentence. Regional parties will be forced to think nationally and national parties will be forced to think regionally. I think this is missing in our politics now. The regional parties are becoming so regional. The element of nationalism is missing in it. And second, you imagine 1 year, 2 years after election is so much burden because you want to give this much freebie, you want to announce 2,000, 2,500, whatever it is. Next 2 years, if you look at that load, I'll take Tamil Nadu, the budget is today. If you take Tamil Nadu government's budget is today. What do you think would be the debt of Tamil Nadu? What is the debt? The money that we have borrowed. Tamil Nadu is number 1 in the country. We have a debt of 9,50,000 crore. 9,50,000 crore is our debt. Highest. 26% of Tamil Nadu's GDP is our debt. Our liquor company, Taskmark alone, gives us 50,000 crore. By selling liquor, we take 50,000 crore, we put it in the budget. Every year, Tamil Nadu government is borrowing 90,000 crore to balance our budget. Now, Tamil Nadu government finance is in collapsing for the last 5 years because to supply to freebies, you are not able to generate revenue. It is making you a net debt. As Tamil Nadu to repay the debt, if you don't borrow any new debt from today, it will take 36 years for us to complete our debt. So I'm putting this in perspective. So I'm sure one nation, one election when it comes would solve some of this problem. Probably you're looking at a national manifesto, you're looking at a state manifesto, you're looking at a combination of manifestos. Political parties might not do too much adventure on freebies and but I hope political parties will become mature with one nation, one elections as well. Thank you.
சேலம் அரசு மோகன் குமாரமங்கலம் மருத்துவமனையில் கார்டியாலஜி டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்டில் ப்ரொஃபஸர் கண்ணன் சார் தலைமையில் நுரையீரல் இரத்த குழாயில் அடைப்பு பல்மனரி த்ராம்பஸ் இருக்கிற பேஷண்ட்ஸுக்கு நார்மலாக வந்து நம்ம மருந்து செலுத்தி தான் மூலமாக மருந்து செலுத்தி அது கதையுதா அப்படிங்கிறத பார்ப்பாங்க. மேசிவ் எம்பாலிசம் த்ராம்பஸ் இருக்கிற பேஷண்ட்